think we're okay there.
All right, everybody who's tuning in, welcome. This is our daily Facebook Live with Marshall and the People's Wave of Love team. It is Saturday, and here in the Northern Hemisphere, and we're starting a new day. It's a brand new day, never been used. So I'm going to hand it off to Marshall to maybe open us up in prayer, and we'll get started and share the theme of the day.
All right. Well, aloha from Hawaii. Thank you for joining us again. And the Holy Ones came up with some interesting concepts this morning. But anyway, we'll invite them in and bring them into our homes. Ask them to surround us with their love and their compassion. So we'll offer this prayer. Vishet Yunai Nat Numa Suda Hey, grandmothers and grandfathers of the galaxies and the universes, all the councils of creation, the Creator, the Great Spirit, we ask permission to speak with you today. We ask that maybe you can come into our lives and into our homes and amongst our families. We call upon all of our ancestors, both on our mother and our father's side, to be with us here today also. We summons into Mother Earth, the spirit of Mother Earth and all of her inhabitants and all of the kingdoms that live upon her. And we ask for that divine feminine spirit, the grandmothers, to come in, all the sacred grandfathers. We ask to talk with them today. Ask them to share their thoughts, their wisdom, or their insight with us today. No, we thank you for coming. Hope. It's been an interesting journey for me, anyway. The last week, or since the 17th of June, when we first started the initiation of this ceremony down in New Zealand, Australia. And what we recognize is that as we moved along, the energy built higher and higher, and a lot of things were coming in that would help us understand this life and what we can do with our energy fields. And one thing I wanted to kind of explain is the natural phenomena that happen, around, especially around the full moon. I know many of you heard the tragic incident that happened in Miami Beach, Florida, when the building collapsed. And when the moon reaches its apex, it's a gravitational pull on our waters. And so down there in that area, not just in Florida, but around the world, because of the glacier melts and the increase in water that's available during the high tides, especially this one during the full moon, it brought a lot of water into our shorelines. And those areas down there around Miami Beach and different areas around the planet, there's a lot of infrastructures that were built on materials that were brought in to beef up the lands and to create the substructure for buildings. But now we see that was probably a mistake. We didn't foresee the glaciers melting the way they are now, and so it's a huge problem around the planet that many of our coastal lines are being eroded away because of the high tides, because there's more water. And we've lost a lot of land especially our islands, the smaller islands that have been inundated by water, with the high tides. And I'm not sure how many islands had to be evacuated already in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, because during the high tides, it just floods them out. So it was a huge impact. And so we see that that's going to continue on as long as the glaciers are melting. And so it's like when talking with the Holy Ones this morning, they were sharing more of the actualities or the realities of how our Mother Earth works, how the planet works, and its evolution. There's no way we can stop it. There's no way we can interfere with it. That's just what the planet does. The planet grows just like we do. It expands and contracts, and it makes it shakes, rattles, and rolls. That's just what the planet does. But it's like for us to really understand that the planet the planet shifts every single day. And so we as humans, we are sometimes, I'm not going to say this in a bad way, but sometimes we are victims because of how the planet shifts. We're in certain areas where there's massive flooding going on, or one comes into mind, Tornado Alley, in different areas like that around the planet, drought-stricken areas or water-prone areas. And the Holy Ones were sharing with me this morning is that there's great changes that are in our future, great changes due to the fact that the Earth is shifting its energy around. And so the more we're aware of that, the more we're in tune with the Mother Earth and asking for guidance and asking for help. We're asking the Mother Earth also, where are the safest place that we might reside in that would be beneficial for us as humans. The other thing too is that they were talking about the crystalline grid. The crystalline grid was set up for communications, just because crystals are a big part of our communication world. We use crystals in everything, our cell phones, our televisions, our radios, everything. Everything that has a communication device in it uses crystal. And so they were showing the crystalline grid is that we can communicate around the planet through the crystalline grid and share our energy fields with literally anybody around the planet. But they did mention too is that during this event, we were focused in on setting up our crystal altars. One crystal altar for the sun and one crystal altar for the moon. And Goldie kind of stepped in, and Goldie says, okay, so we're coming to the end of this energy field with the moon. And, we've already dissipated the sun. But she said, now it's time that we think about the future. There's more things coming. Obviously, we can't stop the future from coming. We can't stop time. But we can shift our energies with it. And so all these days, we had placed a container out there, a grounding container for the sun and a grounding container for the moon. And so when we expel those containers and we give that offering, that final offering back to the Mother Earth and to the moon and obviously for the sun, it ends that particular energy field. The crystals took on what we asked them to take on. We influenced them. We put an intention in them. And so now, as we begin this final day, tomorrow morning, will end this cycle. And when we get that final offering, that energy field is dissipating. We're not sure where we're going out here in the future. Monday morning, we're going to be producing more of a Q&A kind of a broadcast, and maybe throwing out some suggestions of where are we going to continue this energy out there into the future. But tomorrow, as we make our final offerings for the moon, and we want to clear those crystals, we want to clear them because they held on to the intentional fields that we created. So we want to clear all of that energy out and prepare them for the next event, if you will, or the next cycle of energy. So those were the main things that the Holy Ones were sharing this morning, is looking at the reality of this planet, looking at the crystalline grid, communication, and clearing the energy fields out of our crystals. So I just wanted to share that much with everybody this morning. So I'm going to hand it back to Rosa. Are there any comments or questions or anything about all of this?
Oh, thank you, Marshall. No comments yet. So I encourage you, if you're tuning in and you have questions, comments, please post those. We'll look at them, we'll read them, and run them by Marshall. And if you're just tuning in, Marshall's been sharing the theme of the day, which is the situation on the planet. It's a pretty broad term. The crystalline grid, which is the communication system that the ceremony has been utilizing. It's the original wireless network that connects us all. And maybe Marshall can share more about that in a bit. And then clearing your crystals. So we are in the final day of the ceremony. We'll make our final, here in the Northern Hemisphere, we'll make our final offerings to the moon in the morning, tomorrow morning. And yeah, so this is the theme of the day, clearing those crystals, honoring the crystalline grid. We have Linda here. She might want to share something too. Linda, did you have anything to say? I saw you take yourself off mute.
Hi, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good night, wherever it is that you are in the world. Speaking of the crystalline grid, that's actually something that is called by many names. I think you're correct in the statement that it's the first World Wide Web. It's actually something that's been scientifically proven. There is and you can look it up. It's called a magnetic grid as well. It's called a net of light. There are actually interacting points. If you think of a fisherman's net, as though it were cast out like this, it permeates everything, not just in our world, but in our universe. It is the thing that connects us all, connects us as humans, connects us as a planet, connects us as living things on the planet. It's an amazing construct, is what it is. For many years, it was just something that people believed existed. And it's only been just recently, I think it was in 2008, that it was actually proven scientifically to exist. So you can look at on the internet and do a search on the grid, the crystalline grid, the web of light. It goes by many names. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on what you're talking about. May 18th, 11.
And Marshall, I'm just going to ask you, could you speak up a little bit? Your audio is it's a little hard to hear you, and we all want to.
Let me kind of scoot this up here a little bit. I'm gonna have to squeeze my head here. How's that? That sound any better?
It's still a little faint, but we can hear you.
I'm not sure what's going on with my microphone here because everything on my end is full blast. So I'm not sure what's going on. But anyway, we're working with the holy ones. They show many different things that needs to be in balance. Science is kind of catching up with what the indigenous people have been using for centuries. They're deciphering, the things that we have been using in the ancient cultures. The crystalline grid isn't anything new. All of our ancestors going way back, they already knew all of that when they started setting up medicine wheels around the planet, going to different sacred sites. They were guided by that crystalline grid energy. I'll share this much with you of how we came together with the crystalline grid. The Holy One showed, this was way back in, I'm going to say, let me see, 2005 we started the energy fields, 2008. Or around 2008, the Holy One showed the crystalline grid. But at that time, the crystalline grid was pretty much dormant. There wasn't a lot of people using it because of the ages. And also there came in to play the Lemurian grids. That the Lemurian civilization, if you will, or that era, came in and placed, what we call that Shambhala energy around the planet. So there was a lot of activity way back in the day, way back in the ages. We're just utilizing it and bringing it back to life. But the crystalline grid that we were told to activate included 8 different places around the planet. And what the Holy Ones were showing was what we call a 9-pointed star energy field, utilizing the planet as the central star. So we have one star in the center, the Mother Earth, and then we had 8 supporting energy fields to support the Mother Earth. And so those 8 supporting energy fields were shown through the holy rounds of where to place them around the planet. And so there were 8 bodies of water that were a part of this huge, massive energy field. And so the first one was in Lake Tahoe, California, Nevada, because Lake Tahoe is split in half up there. The first body of water was Lake Tahoe. The second body that the Holy Ones were showing was Lake Titicaca in South America. The third was a place in the English language, it was called Lake Mackay in Australia. And in the old days, Lake Mackay was once Australia's largest lake. Then it dissipated down to a really small pond, basically. I mean, it's kind of like a muddy lake. The fourth one was Lake Chad, Africa. Lake Chad, Africa was the most prominent lake. Now it's Lake Victoria. But Lake Chad was introduced through the Holy Rounds. The fifth one was Lake Baikal up in Russia, our largest freshwater lake in the world. And the next one we had to really do some research because they shared a name, Ishikal. And Ishikal, we're wondering, well, why are they showing Ishikal? So after a lot of research, we found that Lake Ishikal is is the highest alpine lake that we have in the world, which is located in Kyrgyzstan, in the country Kyrgyzstan. And then they showed Lake Geneva in Switzerland, an ancient lake. And then we went back to the Great Lakes back in the United States. And so what the Holy One showed is that we can globally synchronize our energy fields to activate the crystalline grid. I mean, it was huge. I mean, it was like mind-boggling of what the Holy Ones were showing. It's like, okay, so wow, this is powerful, powerful stuff. But how do we do this? I mean, we don't have the resources to go around to 8 of the lakes around the planet and set up crystal altars or crystalline, shrines, whatever you want to call it. But it was amazing of how the Holy Ones synchronistically brought us all together. There was no time frame that they showed. They just said, get it together. And so the journey began. Lake Tahoe was that was in our backyard, so that wasn't a problem. Lake Titicaca, we knew people down there that worked with the Island of the Sun and the Ayamara people, and so we connected with them, started a dialogue with them. The hardest one was down in Australia, is connecting with the Aborigines to try to get them to understand what the Holy Ones are asking, right? So that was a challenge in itself. And then Lake Chad, Africa, is like, who do we know in Lake Chad, Africa? So there was a lot of research, fact finding of who can we connect with in those different areas. Lake Baikal was a given because we had shamans up there in Lake Baikal, and a lot of people working with the Russian people up there. And Kyrgyzstan, Ishikal, that was synchronized through a ceremony in San Francisco, where I actually met the lead shaman in that particular area. And again, synchronistically, the Holy Ones were bringing these things together without knowing, how all this is going to work. So we had a connection with Kyrgyzstan. We had a connection with Russia. The next one was a connection in Lake Geneva in Switzerland. And so we had people come forward, and we had some monks that were assembling in Lake Geneva. And then we went to the Great Lakes back here in the United States. And then that's when I was introduced to all of the grandmothers' lodges around the Great Lakes. And so this took about 3 years to bring all of this together. And so one particular day, I was living in New Mexico at that time, down in a little place called Arivaca, which is way down south. And so I was sitting outside, and I was kind of thinking about all of these lakes around the planet. And I said, okay, so now we have connection with all the 8 lakes that they showed. And I was asking, so what next? And they said, we need to have them all send 1 gallon of their water. And I thought, yeah, right. How are we going to get them to send 1 gallon of their water to us? I thought, okay, so in the Holy One's realm, that's a no-brainer. You just do it, right? So we threw it out there. We need 1 gallon of your water sent to this address. So that was into play. And then the Holy One showed May 18th, 2011, just out of the blue. May 18th, 2011. And so I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, so what does May 18th, 2011 have to do with anything? I work with astrologers, when I do ceremonies, and I ask them for star alignment energies and information about how or when to do ceremonies in the year, when to do fire ceremonies, when to do earth ceremonies, when to do air ceremonies, when to do water ceremonies, on and on and on and on. My astrologer, it took him a couple of days to figure out May 18th, 2011. Now, this was in January of 2011. And he came back and he said, that's a very unusual day this year. He says, it's the first time in over 1,500 years that we have 6 water planets joining together on that day. They're coming into alignment on that particular day. And I thought, whoa, that's crazy. So we determined May 18th, 2011 to synchronize ourselves in all of these 8 places around the planet. So we got the word out real fast. And so here comes May 18th. We had shamans, we had medicine people, grandmothers, grandfathers, the communities and whatever. They were all coming together for this massive worldwide ceremony. And so I was in Galveston, Texas at that particular time. And so we received all of the gallons of water. And so we had them there and we had them labeled. This water came from Titicaca. This one came from Lake McKay. This one came from Africa. This one came from Bacall, so on and so forth. And so on that particular day at 2:45 Texas time, that's when all of the 6 planets were coming into alignment, the water planets. We had no idea what was going to happen, but we knew something was going to happen. And so when we set up our crystal altar, this was a huge, huge, massive altar. I have pictures of it somewhere in my archives. And we were told by the Holy Ones to gather the elders, to gather the grandmothers. And so we selected 8 grandmothers and handed them one of the gallon jars of water from the countries. And so the Holy One showed that at 2:45 that day that the grandmothers would step forward and pour their water out onto our crystal altar. And so around the planet, again, this was being synchronized. So all of those other areas, they were getting the grandmothers together with a bottle, with their water. They didn't have all 8 gallons, they had just their water. So they gave it to 8 of their grandmothers. So I think it was about 2:15 that day, we started organizing the people. Got the grandmothers with their helpers. We asked them to come around the altar. And we say, okay, we're going to ignite what we understand as the crystalline grid. This is what the Holy Ones are showing. I'm not sure how it's going to work. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is what the Holy Ones are showing. So here we come to about 2:30, and I asked somebody if somebody had a stopwatch, right? To kind of connect us with the time. So everyone is getting excited, and we had I'm going to say about 180, almost 200 people at that particular ceremony. And so people were encircled around the grandmothers. There's probably about 5 circles that were surrounding the grandmothers in the center. So here we come at 8:44 or 2:44, and a friend of mine, John Mazel, he was doing the timing for us, and he says, "Okay, we've got less than a minute." And so as we're joining together, now you got to realize around the planet at all 8 places, there were people joined together with us doing the exact same ceremony. So here comes John. He says, okay, we're about 15 seconds away. So we asked the grandmothers to get a little closer to the altar. And so he does the countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7. Something happened when at the 7th second. The grandmothers were instructed that one by one, starting with Lake Tahoe, the first grandmother would pour the water out, the second Lake Titicaca, Lake McKay, Lake Chad, Lake Ishikal, or Lake Bacall, Lake Ishikal, Geneva, and the Great Lakes. They would all do it one by one, right? But at 7-second mark, they all stepped forward, and the countdown continued. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At 1, at 2:45 Texas time that day, around the planet, all the grandmothers came forward and they poured all of the water out at once onto all of the crystals that we had on our altar. Immediately when they poured all of that water out, we can hear this immense crackling sound through the sand. It went. And we're looking at each other with that, whoa, what did we just do? What happened? That ignited what we understand as a crystalline grid. It rejuvenated it. After the fact, about a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes later, I started getting feedback from different areas around the planet, and the same exact thing happened with them, is that they heard this big, huge crackling sound through the Mother Earth in their different areas. So we ignited the crystalline grid. Ever since then, we've been utilizing the crystalline grid for worldwide communications, working with different medicine people, different leaders, different shamans, different groups around the planet. And so for years, since 2011, we've been asking more insights from the Holy Ones. Okay, so how can we utilize the crystalline grid for the betterment of the planet? And so these last days since June 17th, we communicated through the crystalline grid around the planet through those 8 crystal altars that were set up back in 2011. We don't know where we're going from here into the future, but we do know that the Holy Ones are watching over us, watching out for us, giving us information of how we can create a better relationship with this planet. Humans are sometimes dense in trying to explain to them, this is the only planet we have. We need to shift something around globally through our human family, and saying we need to really, really take a reality check here on what is going on with the planet. A lot of people are just kind of, who knows? A lot of them, they don't really care. They're kind of complacent. But in order for us to all survive, we need to understand more about how all of this energy works. It's time. Anyway, I want to share that much. I hope.
Oh, thank you, Marshall. If you're just tuning in, Marshall has just been sharing with us about a ceremony that was done May 18th, 2011, that kind of reactivated the crystalline grid. I'll try to save that section and pull it out of the recording later so that we can share that more widely. Very interesting stuff. So in the ceremony, Marshall was just sharing, they activated 8 different bodies of water on the planet Earth. and utilize those waters with crystalline structures and ceremony in conjunction with an astrological event where 6 of the water planets all lined up, May 18th, 2011, to re-energize the crystalline grid. So I'm wondering, Marshall, what we can do now to work with the crystalline grid. This ceremony has been utilizing those energies, but just like on our own in our day-to-day life, what are some things that we can use to become more aware of this wireless communication system that connects us all? How can we work with it individually?
You know, we were talking before we went online and it was about judgments. In order to utilize the crystalline grid is pure energy. Pure energy. And Goldie is mentioning right now, in order to utilize the crystalline grid, there's a process that takes place in the mind that gets to absolute truth, and that place is a place of non-judgment. And so when you're using that type of energy, that crystalline grid energy, that pure energy, there's no way you're going to be able to transmit if you have any judgments at all. It won't work. It will dissipate your energy. And so what we're looking for is true factors, true energy fields that are needed to make this place, make the planet a better place where all of us can live without judgment. You know, we realize that there are things that need to be shifted around in order for that pristine energy to come in. But we really need to look at how we think and how we project our energy fields out there, how we project our prayers. As long as it's coming from love, coming from our heart, coming from our soul, that, you know, we need the planet. We need us as humans to come together to better our way of life here on this planet. So that's about the only way I can describe utilizing the crystalline grid. It's pure energy fields. It's absolute truth energy fields, and it doesn't work with judgments. That's for sure. We found that out the hard way. So that's the best way I can describe it.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you're just tuning in, we're talking about the theme of the day, which is the crystalline grid and clearing our own crystals from the ceremony as we complete the ceremony, the solstice ceremony tomorrow morning. Ellen's tuning in. Ellen, I'm glad you found us. She says that she was a part of that ceremony on Galveston Beach, along with Grandma Aggie and her daughter Nadine. And they're from Hood River, Oregon. It was powerful. I'm sure it was made more powerful, Ellen, because you were there. And Marshall was just sharing about, I asked, how can we utilize the crystalline grid? And he was mentioning clearing ourselves of judgments. And that reminds me of the theme today, clearing our crystals. So just like we clear our crystals, we have to be clear crystals ourselves in order to really use this pure energy of the crystalline grid. If you're just tuning in and you have any comments or questions, we invite you to put those in the comment section. Marshall, thoughts about that?
Hi,
Linda.
I have a question. So I know there's kind of a variety of way of clearing your crystals. One of which is to put them into salt water or seawater. Another one is leaving them outside at night to allow the moon energies to clear them. But are there other ways of clearing your crystals as well? I'm interested to know what other methods there are, because maybe I don't know what they all are.
There's many ways to clear crystals. You know, the most common way known to most people is clearing them with salt water. And you cover up all the crystals and pour water on it and just saturate it with salt. The other way is salt water from the sea, from the ocean, and clear them that way. Or you can literally dig a hole into the Mother Earth, place all your crystals in the Mother Earth, and cover them up with the soil. That's the way the old people used to clear crystals. They'd just leave them in there until they needed them again. They would dig them out and wash them off, and the crystals were ready to go. So there's many different ways to clear crystals, but for the sake of this session, the easiest is to clear them with salt water. And you can use just regular table salt, but a lot of it, you just take a container, put all your crystals in there, fill it up with water so all the water is over the crystals, and then you take like a cup of salt and just sprinkle them around there. Just let them sit out in the sun, all day and all night, and by tomorrow morning they're ready to go again. All the energy is cleared.
So what is it about the salt that does the clearing? What's so special about salt?
Frequency. Salt has a frequency. It's a frequency of what we understand as a life form. Salt in its pure form will dissipate life forms in an energetic field. There's like salt waters, like up in our lands, we have a big lake called Mono Lake. Mono Lake is almost, it's one of the highest concentrated saltwater lakes we have on the planet, and nothing can live in it. Nothing. And so when we put crystals in there, there's nothing there's nothing that can be attached to a crystal after you place it in salt. It just dissipates that energy field. It's a frequency that salt will dissipate. And so that's what we call clearing the crystals, is that we're clearing the crystals of all energy fields. The Mother Earth does the same thing. It'll clear all the energy fields out of the crystals. Or fire, you can use fire too. It dissipates the energy. The other thing I want to mention too is that your intentions, you can actually clear crystals through a meditation, through intentional fields, but it's a little tricky because you have to create an altar to clear altars, if that makes any sense. So there's all kinds of different ways. I'm just trying to suggest some basic ways that everybody can utilize and clear crystals.
I also, while you're speaking, I'm thinking, okay, so salt water clears all negative energies. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, there's like this huge saltwater reservoir that we have on the earth. And is that what it's doing? Is clearing all the energies, that water just being out there? And all of the animals and the things that live in the ocean, are they all always being cleared? All of that energetic, everything is always being cleared. The things that have and live and are in the ocean around the world.
When, again, I mentioned, the more you understand energy, the more knowledge you have of how energy, the frequencies, molecular structures, all of those things, how they all either work together or work against each other. Dr. Emoto kind of engaged us in the tip of the iceberg about energy fields, molecular structures, thought forms, whatever. He was concentrated just on water. But if you take his research and you exchange water for fire, you can do the same thing with fire. It's a thought form that can move the energy of fire. It's like fire walking, right? When you're walking on coals, it's the same principle, is that you're changing the frequencies in your mind to accommodate what's in front of you. You can do it with air. You can do it with clouds. You can do it with anything that ever exists. All it is just energy. And the more you understand it, you can move energy to benefit a harmonic place. It's like creating rain. You know, all it is energy. You can create a cloud, and your intentions are say, I want to create a rain cloud. So again, everything is just based on energy, the knowledge of energy. That's why I say, clearing crystals is an easy practice to do, as long as you know how energies work either together or eliminates each other. And there's so many different ways. You can even freeze a crystal and clear its energy. Put it in a freezer. That's a simple way too. So anyway, back to the discussion. Rosa, how much time we have?
We're coming up at the end of the hour. We do have a question from Ellen about clearing crystals. She's asking, how long do the crystals need to stay in the salt water to be cleared?
The common practice for me, this is just a suggestion. For those of you who don't know how to clear crystals with salt, place it in a container, fill it up with water, pour a bunch of salt, at least a cup of salt or more, depending on how many crystals you have. Set it outside in the sun, let it set in the sun, let it set in the moon energy or the night energy. And then by tomorrow morning, take your crystals, wash them off, and they're ready to go. They're cleared for a different intention. That's the simplest, basic practice that you can do for yourself. So just leave them out during the day, during the night, and then tomorrow you're ready to go again. A lot of times I'll just leave them out there. Well, sometimes they'll be out there for a week clearing themselves. The other thing is clearing black crystals. Now that's a whole different arena. Black crystals are very, very dangerous, but I'm not even going to get into that. So we don't have enough time. So again, I want to thank you for all your comments and your questions. And again, the Holy Ones are showing the future, really coming to a realization of what this planet is doing and how it's doing it and where it's doing it. And we've seen a major collapse down in Miami Beach here because of the high tides that are coming in and dissolving the foundations underneath the buildings. This is a common place around the planet right now as we're speaking. We have a problem over here on the islands because the high tides are coming in so fast and so powerful is that they're eroding our beachfront roads and a lot of our beachfront. So these are the things that our Holy Ones are showing out there, is that be aware that the earth is shifting. It is not going to wait for you to shift. It's shifting on its own. But be aware of that. Be focused in on where you're living. Focus in on the weather patterns where you're living. All of the conditions that are happening in your local environments. Those are some real issues. It's just like, yeah, we need to use our best senses about us, our common sense. Are we in a safe place? again, that's just what the holy ones are sharing. You know, you can. I'm just the messenger. You can put it in one ear and let it go out the other. It's up to you. But again, you know, I've followed the holy ones for a lot of years, and what they say is exact. So I'm very, very aware. Over here, our biggest threat are hurricanes. And so we're really, really focusing in on what's going on with the hurricane factor that stems from South America, that culminates over there. And we call them bowling balls. I say, hey, do we have a bowling ball yet? We have a little bowling ball yesterday that was forming, but it's no threat to us. But we know that we're subject to shifts on the earth, changes with the weather patterns. You know, we know that. We just don't know when or how or where. But we know it's going to happen. So with that being said, I'd like to close us up. And so tonight, think about your future. You know, throw it out there in that crystalline grid. Throw it out there to your ancestors. Throw it out there to the Holy One. For me, I'm just asking for more guidance, more clarity, more strength, more wisdom and understanding of what I need to be doing. So we share that much. So we take 3 deep breaths again. Again, just kind of focus in on yourself, kind of dissipate any thought forms, just let it go. Kind of get yourself in a relaxed state. And we want to give thanks to all of our ancestors, both on our mother and our father's side, all the ancestors of our planet, all the plants and the animals and the water kingdoms and all the kingdoms. We want to give thanks to them for being here with us here on this planet. I want to thank all the holy ones, all the healers, all of the visionaries, Creator, the Great Spirit, all the grandmothers that came, all of the grandfathers that came to help support us. We ask a blessing for ourselves, for our family, for our homes, for our environment. And I ask a blessing for the holy ones. I thank you for helping us and guiding us and keeping us safe and strong. I ask a blessing for all of you holy ones, the Creator. Thank you. Thank you for helping us out.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marshall. So we're wrapping up today's Facebook Live. Siska had a question about how we can influence the shift in a better way. I feel like Marshall sort of answered it in his closing prayer. And we encourage you to tune back in tomorrow. We have 2 more days of Facebook Lives. So we'll be back tomorrow at the same time, Sunday. Thank you guys for tuning in, and bye for now. Bye, Goldie. Does she have any closing words?
No, she said, continue to find the joy. Your job, just find the joy.